All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us today in our latest of our Together for Business events. As many of you who've been before will be aware, we're continuing to continue to support our businesses through the current crisis, and our latest is obviously in response to the current situation. We're certainly been taking feedback and have noticed there's people are far more time challenged than they used to be. Zooms, which was a blessing, has for some become a bit of a curse. So what we've done is to adapt as well. So we've created these new Power Lunch and Learn sessions that hopefully will give you some golden nuggets of information that are relevant to what is still a re-emerging economy. And as we can see, still got sort of bits and pieces to deal with as lockdowns and restrictions are up and down during the re-emerging situation. So that's where we are with it. One of the things that I think was maybe possibly rightly so in the way that it was approached was business development. Initially, businesses were very concerned about their sort of bit more existential issues, grants, funding, how to work from home, etc. We've found, obviously, more recently that the economy is opening up a bit, and we're getting back to normal, and business is, still need to try and return to some sort of normality in the way that they operate. And obviously developing your business and having customers is quite an important part of that. So we're delighted today to welcome the Firestarter team, and I'll be passing over to Chris O'Riordan, who is the MD of Firestarter, who are specialists in that particular area and can give us some insights. So we've only got half an hour, so what will happen is just very quickly we'll give you the sort of key information that these guys are going to divulge, and then if you do have the time, we have 10-15 minutes thereafter for people who want to stay on. If you want to leave at the end, then we're not going to be offended. So without further ado, if I could pass over to Chris. Thanks, Chris, if you unmute.
Thank you very much indeed. So I am going to share my screen. So let me do that. So hopefully any second now, you should be able to see my screen. So if somebody can just give me a thumbs up or nod. Yeah, hooray, perfect, okay. So this is indeed a whirlwind tour of better business development. Basically here today from the Firestarter team, you've got three of us. So you have myself, Chris O'Riordan, and if you look around your screen, you'll probably also find Matt Wheeler, who's our product and marketing director, and also John Keogh, who is our man in Scotland, who it was who got us into this session today. So what we'll do for the next, so conscious that we're on a real time kind of limit here, so I'm going to give you a sort of a lightning speed introduction to the world of Firestarter, and then we're going to talk about some of the core components of better business development, and then in particular we're going to talk about pain points as a concept and how they can be used to improve your philosophy for business development. And then exactly as already talked about, depending on exactly when we finish that, we'll have 5, 10, 15 minutes where we can possibly spend some time taking some questions and discussing some general points. So that is the idea. Firestarter is a business, so our whole raison d'etre is improving the sales performance of organizations. And that's across all different sizes of organizations. So I think our biggest client at the moment, we're working across 36 countries with something like 550 sales guys. Our smallest clients can be businesses that are turning over literally hundreds of thousands of pounds and have 1 or 2 people in them. So sort of commonality across those, but different scales of application. But it's all about sales performance improvement and the associated elements around that. Just in terms of why we feel we're different, we do always start with this sales question. So what is it that has to happen to get whatever size of business selling more of whatever it is they do? And that can present itself in all kinds of different ways, and sometimes not the most obvious way. We do a lot of work with organizations where there is a high dependency on bosses. It's not just for selling actually, but for everything in the business. So removing dependency on bosses, and commonly it starts with, how do we get this business to a place where it's not just the boss who's having to carry the full load? And then the other thing we do, and this will become apparent as we go through these conversations today, we absolutely like to get stuck in to help businesses have really practical solutions to how they deal with this. So it's not kind of wave your arms consultancy, it's actual real, let's work out what we have to do to get your business selling more of whatever it is you sell. So we've got 3 modes that we work through. And what we're going to do today is we're going to sort of do a condensed version of the condensed version, if that makes sense. So we have this thing called the Firestarter Academy, which is basically just an opportunity to take all the Firestarter gold, to be honest, and condense it into really simple 90-minute modules that we run over 5-week programs. And this is actually something we've been doing a lot of during the last 6 months or so, because it's a really good opportunity to access some of our stuff. So we're talking today about some of this better business development content, but we've also got content around practical business planning, effective sales management, all those kind of things. And then we move through the scale right up to programs that we run with people for 3, 6, 12 months and get them far more involved in their business. So what we're going to do today is we're going to pick some of this content from our Better Business Development course and try and just explain it in a real short amount of time. So commonly our conclusion is, and again, what I'm going to do is try and give you 10 hours of content in 20 minutes. So bear with me. We find that these topics here are the ones that really start to help businesses understand how to improve their business development models. And as I said before, what I'm going to spend some time on today is the module 1 content, which is the really making pain point selling work for you. But I'm also going to touch a little bit on the account development thinking as well, because I think our experience in lockdown especially is there's never been a more important time to be engaging with your current customers and deciding how you go on journeys with them. So my plan in this period now is to cover quite a bit of content from module 1, a bit of content from module 2. The other stuff, I've just put it up on the screen there because it kind of, it will just whet your appetite a little bit about some of the other things to think about. So managing your sales meetings, and by that we mean the conversations that you're having with people. So when you're having sales conversations, there are things that you can do to improve your impact in those conversations, significant things you can do to improve your impact in those conversations. Pipeline management, so actually managing your opportunities and your prospects. Generally, people are not as rigorous and disciplined about this as they should be, and like building some principles into simple principles into that can make a massive difference. And also just making sure you're not constantly reinventing the wheel and you have the right sales toolkit to do your job properly. So I'm not going to be able to cover that in the time we've got here, but I think part of what we've talked about is maybe doing some more of these sessions. So I think they could be good topics to pick off in the future. So really, who is this for? Who should be embracing better business development? And we've got 3 types of people that we find generally start to engage with this. Anyone with a sales responsibility. And actually, in most businesses these days, business owners especially, they are the primary sales engine of the business. Although people they still have people in sales roles, business development manager roles. And actually, you're never too late to either A, learn new tricks, or B, just sharpen up your old habits. And you can see the bottom point there, anyone looking for new rigor in how they approach business development. So what I hope we're going to do today, even just in the short time we've got, is just give a little bit of takeaway tips that you can say, right, if I started doing that tomorrow, I'd start to make a bit of progress. The middle ground is anyone in an account management function. And this is a really interesting one because actually most people in businesses are in some type of account management function. They have a responsibility to own customers and work out how to take them on a journey. But commonly people don't necessarily do that with a commercial mindset. So the account management work, especially that we're going to talk about, will give you a bit of a feel for how not just your primary sales minded people in your business, but also your broader business can start to think about different techniques for improving business development. The full course, and I think it's worth sharing this because it just helps to maybe set the scene a little bit for some of the stuff we're going to cover in a minute. This is all about best practice. It's about understanding that there are things that work that you can start doing straight away. And actually they all connect. So those 5 models I talked about, they all connect to each other really easily. And actually, hopefully when we do the Q&A today, we'll see a little bit of this, but certainly in the bigger taster sessions we've done for this and the bigger workouts we've done for this, what you see is interacting with peers and people who know the tricks of the trade really starts to get the mind provoked quickly. And we want you to have things that you can do immediately. That's the whole point of this. So I've talked a little bit about the modules we cover, and I'm not going to overlabor this. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start talking a little bit about where it came from and then the pain points things. So this all came from, especially my background, literally observing thousands of individuals in sales roles. So both in my kind of formative years in corporate life, but also in our Firestarter years of working with probably 100+ organizations with a huge number of people in selling roles, you just start to learn the good things that people do and the bad things that people do. So this slide in itself is a whole education in the things that the good people do well and the things that the less good people forget to do. And we galvanize this into a la Covey, 7 habits of effective salespeople, the things that good salespeople do. And I could talk about this for hours, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to pick some real highlights around it. So the first thing that people do actually in effective sales roles is they really own their numbers. They really understand what they're trying to get to, and they really make that central to their whole focus. So lots of people don't do that. They just go about their life, especially in smaller businesses, and they don't really relate kind of targets per se to what they're doing. The knowing your universe and honing your universe concept plays really well to the account management conversation. So understanding your account base, understanding your prospect base, and really gently working it over time to get it to the place you want to get it to. The third thing, this is a really interesting one. Quite commonly, you find that people do lots of chat, lots of getting ready to sell, lots of producing new documents, but they actually just don't get on with it and have conversations with people. So the old mantra that you'll never do any business talking to yourself really comes out in this, and you have to make a point of being proactive about talking to people, and that doesn't mean making 4,000 phone calls a day. It means having a structured approach to engaging with people. The treating every meeting like the critical hour principle, again, this is covered in our broader content, as is the obstacles piece. But when you're in a sales conversation, there is a certain way to structure how that opens up and closes down. And then point 6 is again, it's about numbers and momentum. So there's a little asterisk there, just because it might not be appropriate for every business, but you have to understand the pace of your business and what you need to do. So for example, in our business, we need to win 2 new clients a month. That's our model, and everything we do is focused on that. In some businesses, the sales guy needs to sell a piece of software a week. And it's like landing planes, building everything in your business so that momentum is sustainable, because it won't go away. And then the last thing is we talked a little bit about the technology at the beginning of this call. Just be careful about confusing evolving technologies with the fundamental basics of business development and selling. They are pretty unchanged, actually. And when we do this kind of content in fuller detail, we show pictures of 1960s America where some people were being really successful and some people weren't, or a market in Africa somewhere where one of the stalls is doing well and one of the stalls isn't doing so well. The basics of business development, managing relationships haven't fundamentally changed. And I think it's really important to remember that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk a little bit about these two concepts, pain points and account planning principles. And this will be whirlwind, but hopefully it will also be thought-provoking and inspiring. So pain points, if you think about pain points, so what is a pain point? It is literally a pain that someone is feeling. And actually the mistake that people tend to make in selling is that they just feel they have to talk about themselves all the time and their goods and their wares and their systems and everything they've got to sell. Fundamentally, and there's an old mandate, isn't there, that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, because it's a ratio. Fundamentally, you should be in your conversations as quickly as possible getting your buyer to talk about their challenges. And in order to do that, you have to understand what the common problems are that your buyers have. So a really powerful exercise is to just literally list the pain points that your buyers have. Why do they buy from you? What is it that really makes them buy from you? And then you should be building your questioning techniques exclusively, pretty well exclusively, to lead them on to talking about their pain points. Because if they're sharing their pain with you, then all you have to do is deliver a solution to that pain. And every kind of example I see of people properly approaching selling with a well-structured pain point-based methodology gets them to a place where they are getting far better engagement from their buyers. So as it says, some of these points on the screen, understanding that your buyers have common problems, and there won't be many of them. If you do this exercise, which I talk a little bit more about on the next slide, and you say, what are the common problems that my buyers have, you will find you can cluster them quite quickly. Most businesses struggle to have more than 5 common problems that their common pain points that their buyers have. Actually building your questioning technique to bring those out, so you can structure your questioning in a new way, so that you are always leading people to talking about their pain points. And then actually structuring your solutions, your case studies, your documents, so it is all about solving the pain points that you routinely expect your buyers to have. And also within this, avoid going into the wrong level of detail. So I massively encourage you to do this exercise. In our bigger taster sessions and our coursework, we put people into groups for 10-15 minutes to really challenge the pain points that their buyers are facing, and really digging deep into what that really means. There's this principle of the 5 whys, which I'm sure many of you will have come across, which says you should always just keep asking, but why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? And you get to a point where ultimately you get to the real answer. And the next slide I'm going to show you is what I definitely regard as being Firestarter gold, because this is generally what pain points are really driven by. So this is virtually usable across any application. And I'll talk through it, and I'm pretty well going to read the slide, because I think it really makes you to start to think about what are they really interested in? Are they interested in buying your widget or your solution, or are they actually trying to solve a different problem? So these groupings here, I'm going to go through them. So frustration, actually very commonly when you're talking to people, whatever they're doing at the moment is driving them mad. Whatever the solution they have to the thing that you're there to talk to them about is just not working well, and they are desperate for you to be able to fix that. So frustration is a massive one. Pure financial, and I think this is one that is often underestimated. People you are talking to will largely be thinking about, will this help me sell more or save more? I need the thing that you're selling me to make that happen. That's what they're really thinking. So for all the fluff and all the chat, often that's what the buyer is thinking. Time, I have a problem with capacity. I'm really hoping that the thing you're selling me is going to help me speed things up. We are screamingly inefficient here. I really want this to take that away. The one that often gets underlooked, and definitely in larger organizations is massively common, is the credibility pain point. So I want to look good in my job. I need whatever you're selling me to make me look competent, help me perform better, make me look like a hero internally, and make it look like I'm good at making decisions, making good buying choices, etc. So they are they're really hoping that the thing you're selling them is going to improve their credibility. And then the bottom two are more about kind of exposure and sort of fear of failure, actually, which it says at the bottom. So people are concluding, I can't do this myself. I have to get someone else to do it because it makes me look like an idiot, or I feel exposed here. So this, when you start to explore it in more detail, and if you start in your conversations with people to think more deeply about what is it that is really driving this person's thought process about why they're buying this from me, it starts to unlock a whole different type of conversation with people. So conscious of time, I think I've probably got about 3 or 4 minutes just to cover the final bits. The account development principles. There are a whole range of core principles that you can use to improve the return from your existing customers, your existing accounts. But I'm just going to give you some simple lines of thought to help you with that. The first one is, so there are 7 principles here. I'm going to just share 2 of them. And this is a really simplistic visual here. Understanding white space, and people immediately nod and get this principle, I hope, which is understanding across your customer base and across your client base how well you have penetrated that with the different things that you have to offer, and how well you can evolve your product offering to get you to a place where you actually can logically take people to another area of the thing that you do. So most people get that, but most people are pretty bad at actually strategically planning it and actually doing it. So the principle of this white space analysis here is to drive you, and without kind of over talking the slide, obviously what it does for you is it points to where should I be concentrating my attention, and where should I be nurturing my conversations on a client by client basis to sell more stuff into them. There's all kinds of stats, but the one that most commonly gets sort of sprouted out is that businesses get 80% of their revenue from their existing customer bases. So this is screaming. It says do this exercise properly in all kinds of organizations. The other one of these principles I'm just going to share with you is this concept of, and I know there'll be businesses of all different types of sizes here, but this conversation of, this concept of really involving your whole team in the strategy to take a client forward. So everybody understanding in your business, everybody who's touching the client in various different ways, what we're actually trying to achieve. So proper account planning that says, currently we do this for them. Currently we know these people, these are the people we interact with. We think we could do this for them. But in order to do that, we don't just need to know the guy in Scotland, we need to know the guy in Ireland, we need to know the guy in Wales. So we need to improve our coverage, or we know the main buyer, but we don't know the FD. We need to start building those relationships. What are the risks associated with the business? What are the conversations that we actually want to open up? What is the revenue opportunity? And sometimes just putting a number on a client or an account really helps you formulate this in your thoughts. So we at Firestarter, we have a clear lifetime value expectation on a client by client basis. And we're channeling all of our account development thinking to getting us to that place over a reasonable period of time. Over the course of the next year, our plan is to do these things. So you're not going to convert a client that's buying one little thing from you to a client that buys a whole load of things from you overnight, but you can build a plan to take yourself on that journey. And then how can the team all work together to achieve this? So who's the best person to open up different conversations, and how do you actually manage this process? So most businesses do not do this. Yeah? The ones that do it make a lot of progress with it. Okay, so as I said, I've just done probably not 10 hours of content, but probably 3 or 4 hours of content squeezed into 20 minutes. If you are interested in this stuff, one of the things we've thought about is this full course, the Better Business Development course, is a 5-week program, 5 modules, 90-minute modules, 2 one-to-one 60-minute sessions. One of the things we thought about is, should we try and do a version of that for this audience? And we'll work out a specific kind of pricing structure for this audience. Typically, people spend $975 to do this course, but we always have an early bird offer and kind of group participants and young people offers. So commonly, people are spending about £800 on these courses for the 5-week program. But we think we might see if we can rustle up a special version just for you guys. And then finally, here's some comments from people we've been engaged with, just to give you a feel for the impact that embracing this kind of stuff can have. It's about connecting all the different themes. So the account management, the pain point thinking, the how I structure my meetings, the how I manage my pipeline. And if you start thinking about that and start thinking about it in a really real things that you can apply tomorrow, you get a whole load of progress on it really quickly. So that is my fly through. Damon, shall I hand back to you?
Yes, thanks for that, Chris. So no, thanks. And we recognise these. We're touching on subjects as you know, as a 5-week course to sort of get under the skin of all of those elements. But I think what these sessions do and what our other sessions have done have opened up. Like I said, like Chris said. If it gets you thinking about these areas, and just to go away and do, some of the basics in the first instance, and that might lead you on to sort of, rolling out a more robust strategy, rather than having it sit in a dusty drawer somewhere as your stressful to do type thing. So no, thanks. I thought that was really good in terms of some real nuggets there, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to.
If I was to give you 2 takeaways from that, sort of on my 20 seconds of reflection on it, the 2 takeaways I would say is, do that piece of work on the common problems your customers face. Just do that exercise and really get into their heads, and also think about the layer down things we talked about, the frustration, the credibility, and how they relate to it. Exercise 1. And exercise 2, just take a couple of your key customers and really do a proper think about the journey you might take them on over the next year.
Yeah, I also particularly like the pain points. That was one of the things that, when John's been in networking sessions, businesses don't always, like you said, I think sometimes it's about, you highlighted there, I want to talk about how great I am. And matching that with their pain points is what you want to talk about, actually, not just sort of a generic sort of how great your businesses are, even if it is, it's making that match. I think that's absolutely key to unlocking that. So that's fantastic. So as I said, I know people are pushed, but we absolutely will not take any offense if anyone needs to rush off at the moment, but I'll be delighted, if people will stay on and we can ask some questions. So what I'll do is I'll try and get the gallery view and see if happy for you to put your hand up. We had a couple of questions, and actually might actually bring John in to remind us of those to maybe answer a couple of those. They're quite similar, weren't they?
Yep, the questions were similar. Is how do you manage to sell during a pandemic? And the other one was, how do you manage to sell during a recession? So I think the pandemic is a similar scenario. So Chris, what's your thoughts on that?
So I think, and we've been doing a kind of a whole range of sessions ourselves with business owners and business leaders, and I think the one of the things that has come up time and time again actually is that the resilience that you need as a business owner and a business leader is kind of, it's whilst it is obviously COVID sensitive, it's actually ingrained in you. So your mindset generally is adapt and overcome. That tends to be what people's mindset is. And I think businesses have fallen into two groups with the pandemic. Either the thing that they've done is kind of can power through it, possibly in a slightly depressed mode, or in some people's cases a significantly depressed mode, but the fundamentals of the thing that they do is not wrong. And you just have to, I think you have to trust yourself that you just have to keep going with it and find the right people to sell to. So that account development planning piece is really key actually, because if you find the right people to sell to, then and leverage your customers, you'll probably get the best results you can from that. The other type of person, obviously, is the people that have to use the parlance of probably 2 months ago, have pivoted, and changed their model significantly. And all I would say with that is what that is a manifestation of is people digging deep into pain points and saying, what are the pain points of the people I'm talking to at the moment, and how can I organize what I have to offer so that it is commercially attractive to them. So I think it's like none of it is massively different. It's about adjusting to the market and adjusting to the pain points of the market and leveraging the opportunities that you can see, not the opportunities that you can't see. It's the same with recession. There's always people that benefit from recessions, and I guess it's understanding whether your business functions well in it, or whether you need to start changing a little.
Can I add to that as well? Is that it's something I've noticed during the whole 5-6 months we've just gone through, is communication with your customers is key, because they're finding new pain points, and the point of you communicating with them is valued by the client, about the relationship, especially if you're not just contacting me to say, well, what can I say today? It's about, well, how's things for you? How are you finding it? And I know we've done it in Firestarter. That's why we've got our own forums we've been running since very early on in lockdown. And I think business people I'm speaking to are saying similar things, that communication is really important with your clients in the pandemic, recession, and marrying that with what Chris has said of opportunities that you can help move forward with their client is really important.
Great. Absolutely. I think that there's been some discussion around that over the last few months as well. Actually, John, certainly that's been fed back by people, considering buying, as well as those selling, and it's been quite a sensitive period. And I guess there's a really good point there in terms of the business development and sales isn't a short-term, fix. It's not about, right, I've got an hour to sort of close a sale. It's about giving them the trust and credibility that they're after, and the pain, solving those pain points. So I always say to people, don't expect the part of the Chamber's amazing network to be part of in the community, but don't expect everyone to be buying your products from the first month or two. Someone might not have a need for another year or whatever. They might not even be the person you're selling to. You might be using a refer. They might just be building the credibility with them. So it's a good point.
Yeah, it's the old. You'll always need someone in the beginning of your pipeline, someone in the middle of your pipeline, and someone at the end of your pipeline. Kind of statement, and that's true. And you'll always have a target. So push yourself forward 5 years. You'll still need to be selling stuff. Yeah. So it's about just building that sense of continuum.
Can I just jump in there? I think Finlay had a question. Did you put your hand up there? If you just unmute yourself and then.
Yeah, so my question was, how would you recommend reaching out to new clients? Sort of like what medium would it to find out their pain points or discuss your product? Like a call, email?
Yeah, so I think it's, so I think the exercise of just sitting in a dark room and thinking, what do I actually perceive are the real pain points that my clients are facing? I think generally people surprise themselves by how powerful that exercise is, and how well they know their client base. But if they're asking, you know, really, why are these people buying from us? Really, why are they buying from us? You get to the truth. So then, to answer your question specifically, I think engaging with people in that exact language is really powerful. So I mean, I think, you know, different people have different preferences. Some people love phoning people, some people love emailing people, but I think, you know, commonly in 2020, engaging with people via email is the start point. Yeah. But kind of just writing, so it's the same point that Damon made actually. If you send someone an email that is a 14 paragraphs long, kind of saying how brilliant you are and all the great things that you do, they'll probably won't engage. If you send someone an email saying, have you got an issue, whatever your business is, have you got an issue with trying to work out how to sell more during these times, or are you doing all the work in your business, or whatever, yeah, actually straight away you're engaging with them at a different level. And you have to be really clever with how you kind of twist that into an engagement. But for new customers, I think you have to just pick at the scabs, basically, of the pain points. For existing customers, and I can reflect on this from our own point of view. At the beginning of just the most recent examples, at the beginning of lockdown, we spent hours talking to people, just talking to them and letting them tell us what was on their mind. And out of that, you go, okay, these are the themes. These are the themes that people want us to help them solve.
Thank you.
I think if I could come in as well, because I've got a wee bit, something like 25 years of marketing experience. So I think there's a really valid point in terms of sales is a key part of your marketing strategy. So it's, you know, there's all sorts of marketing stats, you know, about new customers needing to sort of be reminded 5 times before making the decision to purchase and what have you. So building a profile that maybe, you know, people have, you know, maybe seen you're popping up, whether it's through, you know, if you're on the LinkedIn network, again, you know, that's sometimes a good way to connect. But, you know, having that idea that you've already maybe in their mind is always good. And I think we've had some great discussions over the period of different ways of just sort of, you know, connecting with customers. We had a guy on with who specializes in corporate videos, and he said just send them a wee link to a wee video. If they click through, again, we do this ourselves. If you see someone clicking on if you have managed to build up a database, see someone clicking, that gives you a wee clue they have an interest in the sort of awareness side of things, and that's maybe a wee lead to sort of think, well, actually, you know, I've got a clue there, and it helps you prioritize as well, because I think I don't know if Chris agrees this. Marketing and sales is infinite. You could do it forever. So prioritizing and picking your key market that you're likely to have highest success rate with is probably a key part of your process as well.
And making sure you have a thing that you do, have a differentiator that kind of, you have to dig deep. Lots of businesses have to dig deep to find the differentiator, but because otherwise it's just vanilla, it's wallpaper, everybody's saying the same stuff, and it's kind of la-di-da-di-da-di-da. You have to dig deep into your differentiator. The other point I'd make is just this, don't underestimate the power of networking or daisy chaining. So person 1 introduces you to person 2, person 2 introduces you to person 3 and 4, and eventually person 29 buys something. You can't even remember how or why that happened, but you know, that's how it works. That is how it works. You know, we're all here today, and you build a personal reputation, personal brand, and a business brand, and it really helps. It really helps kind of just like, no one starts, people always say to me, oh, you're lucky, Chris, you've got a really good network. I just roll my eyes and think, well, I'm pretty sure when I started I didn't. Yeah. I think I knew one person, and then he introduced me to somebody else, and then then here I am now. Yeah, you just have to be patient.
You actually build, you know, the credibility, but obviously the key part of what the chamber does is creating that network and community. So that's a really valid point, actually, Chris, in terms of that you've got you develop a base of fans, let's call it, you know, because the community is very supportive, the business community is very supportive, and they'll do your selling for you if they've built a relationship and trust you.
So I'll give you 2 top tips. Export your LinkedIn connections onto a spreadsheet, rank it by name, put an extra column in, and go down the list and grade it A or B. And A's are people that you think, blimey, I should talk to them, I should talk to them, I should just talk to them, I need to talk to those people. B's are people who you think, well, it could be worth me having a conversation with them, blah, blah, blah. And then everybody else is like your dog groomer and your hairdresser who you've accidentally connected with and you can't remember who they are. But then if you will surprise yourself with your A's, you'll find, wow, there's actually 38 people I probably should just get on and say hi to. Yeah, and you should do that kind of 2 times a year, 3 times a year, and it's really powerful. Tip 1. Tip 2 is don't underestimate the fact that just because people aren't talking to you doesn't mean they're not listening. So things like putting stuff on LinkedIn about, hey, I'm doing this, I'm great, this is really exciting. Just because they're not engaging with you doesn't mean they're not listening. And in the long game, you'll be surprised. People pop out of the blue and say, I saw that. So just keep it regular.
So kind of touches on what I was saying, you know, treat your marketing mix, you know, look at how you're supporting your sales with, and we've had loads of sessions with, you know, the value of LinkedIn and LinkedIn articles and sharing your knowledge. Even these sort of things are great. You know, if anyone has the capacity to share their knowledge and expertise, that builds your credibility and knowledge about your product and service. And if you build it around those pain points, it can be a fantastic selling tool. So all these things. So anyone else want to ask any questions? We've got a couple of minutes left. No? Okay. Well, thanks the Firestarter team for joining us, and Chris for that whistle stop tour. We're going to have some more conversations because I think the opportunity for these things is to maybe sort of look at a smaller group with a longer session, see what interest we have, and sometimes to continue the short sessions, but maybe focus in on, you know, maybe a session, or even John, you could bring something like that to our networking to get our networking group to work through, you know, one of those sheets sort of thing. Say if there's one thing that you do, let's do that in the networking session. So no, thanks everyone who's contributed, and thank you everyone here who has come along for our first Power Lunch and Learn. I hope you found it of value. So thank you very much.
Simon, is it any chance to speak to you for a couple of minutes after the event?
I'm just staying on to catch up with the guys. So if you ping me, I'll probably get you.